where Senator John Thune, he's chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, joins us live from Capitol Hill. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome, Senator Thune, on this big day. So, Senator Thune, I want to start with where we are on the confirmation process. You have jurisdiction over some of them, not all of them, but how long is it going to take before the new president has his cabinet in place?
I hope we get as many of them confirmed quickly as we can, David. I mean, my concern is that, you've got a lot of important positions, and the longer they're vacant, the harder it is for the new administration, the new team to get up to speed and get on the ground and go to work. So I think probably today we will confirm some of the national security team, most likely defense, homeland security. Still discussion, I think, going on about some of the other top-level national security positions. I would like to see us be able to get Elaine Chao was under our committee's jurisdiction, Wilbur Ross. I think they're non-controversial, but it's all up to the Democrats and how much they want to cooperate.
Well, Wilbur Ross is of particular interest to our audience because he has such responsibility for trade, which is foremost in people's minds. Do you have any sense of timing on when Wilbur Ross will be confirmed, if in fact he is confirmed?
We'll do everything we can to get him reported to the floor. It takes unanimous consent to do that, discharge him out of our committee, but I would expect early next week. And because he enjoys on the committee, and I think in the Congress, in the Senate as well, bipartisan support, he's somebody we should be able to get through the process fairly quickly. But he did a terrific job. We had about a 4.5 hour hearing earlier this week, and he gave very substantive answers to a whole range of issues that you all are concerned about. As you mentioned, trade was paramount among those. But I feel very confident that in his prospects for confirmation, and I think he'll be very good in the job. He has tremendous experience to bring to it, and he answered the questions with tremendous, I thought, competence and knowledge when we had him in front of our committee.
Senator, pivoting from Wilbur Ross to Steve Mnuchin, you were in the hearing yesterday, and in that he spoke about the dollar, and he said longer term he favors the strong dollar. That is in contrast with what Donald Trump has said about the dollar being too strong. Now, you agreed with Mnuchin yesterday that you're a pro-growth, you believe in the pro-growth agenda. How do you factor that into these conflicting statements about the dollar?
Well, I think that the one thing I was encouraged about, and I talked about a little bit in the opportunity that I had to question Steve Mnuchin yesterday, is he is very pro-growth. And, obviously there are different points of view about the value of the dollar and how that impacts the overall economy. And I think the key is you want to strike a balance. There's a part of the proposal that's been advanced by the House Ways and Means Committee has a border adjustability provision in it, which assumes some increase in the value of the dollar to offset a so-called import tax. And so, there's going to be a lot of discussion, I think, in terms of the policy framework as we go forward, tax reform, trade, and everything else, about how the dollar plays into that. I mean,
right.
Frankly, as someone who represents an agricultural state, we'd like to be able to export, and so sometimes not having the strongest dollar is a good thing for our ag exports.
Right, and that really gets to the heart of that conversation, which is the competing agendas in some ways of Donald Trump. So if you do have a border adjustment tax, the dollar does move higher. If you want manufacturing to be brought back here in the U.S., that means you need a lower dollar. What do you think the reality is going to wind up being?
Well, probably, I think, again, sometimes is trying to strike that balance. Obviously, we want manufacturing jobs to stay in the United States. That's one of the reasons we're interested in tax reform. We think that we're shipping too many jobs outside of the U.S. and too much income is being housed outside of the U.S. simply because our tax code's non-competitive, our rate's the highest in the world, and that if in tax reform, if we can go to a territorial system and create a tax system that's simple and that encourages businesses to stay in this country and do business and create jobs here, that's going to be a good outcome. And of course, depending on what happens with that whole border adjustability debate, we'll see how the value of the dollar plays into that. But I think a strong economy, a growing economy, getting back up to 3 to 4% growth is good. That probably means the dollar is going to be stronger. But again, I think these things have a tendency to even out, and if you have the right policies in place and you get a good growth trajectory back in our economy, and you're creating good-paying jobs in our economy, it's all going to balance out in a way that I think is good for both the American consumer, for American business, and for our standard of living.
Senator, you've said that growth is right up at the top of your agenda for what needs to get done. When you had Wilbur Ross testifying for you, he said that really exports are important, but one of the ways, he said, that really get exports up would be using tariffs, ironically, to extract fair trade agreements. That would have to come through your committee in all likelihood. Where are you on the use of tariffs?
Well, I'm not a big fan of tariffs. I think, again, we want to create more of a free trading environment. We want other countries to lower their tariffs and non-tariff barriers to our goods. And again, I speak from an agricultural state. And I think that's probably the generally held view among most Republicans in Congress, and probably some Democrats as well. I think what he got at, and I frankly, I thought I was fairly comfortable with how he answered those questions, because I think what he was suggesting is that we've got to enforce our laws. We've got to make sure that those countries with whom we trade are being fair and complying with trade agreements. And oftentimes, I think a lot of our businesses in this country are victims of countries and who game the rules, don't play by the rules. We play by the rules, and as a consequence of that, businesses here are hurt. So I think he was clear that we want to send a strong message. He is somebody who in his business life has been a victim of, I think, unfair trading practices, and so he's got some personal experience with that. But I think he's going to bring a perspective that exports are important, that we've got to, if we're going to grow the economy, we've got to trade, but we also have to make sure that we've got agreements that are negotiated, that are good in the first place, and then secondly, that we enforce them. And I don't disagree with that, and I don't think most members of Congress on either side would.
Senator, I hear this again and again, that the majority of these people are free traders, but they want fair trade. So why is Mexico, a country with a significant amount of free trade agreements, coming under so much criticism from the incoming administration? I understand the China point about making it fairer. They have massive tariffs on things like luxury cars, etc. But why Mexico?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the point on China is fairly clear because of the way in which they discriminate against American-made products. But Mexico and Canada and the whole NAFTA deal, what they indicated and what Wilbur Ross indicated in his testimony the other day is that he thinks on a periodic basis it's important to reevaluate or re-examine these trade agreements, see what's working and what's not. But I don't think that you will find much argument from people that Mexico and Canada are two biggest trading partners, that we need to have a good, robust trading relationship with them. And so, whatever steps they take in terms of re-examining NAFTA and other trade agreements, that's fine. But in the end, we need to end up in a place that continues to promote a robust, open trading environment with our two biggest trading partners.
All right, thank you so much, Senator, for joining us. We appreciate it. Senator John Thune.